Hi, Ed here from Crystal Clear Aquatics. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to be doing another plant A to Z. We're doing a big pond clearance on this pond, and you can see it's really taken over with predominantly lots and lots of this, I'm going to say bulrush, but that's not its correct name. Everybody knows it as bulrush, but it's actually called a reed mace, and that's its technical name. A rush is a completely different, botanically, a completely different plant, and a rush has got a hollow cylindrical stem, and a reed has a flat fleshy leaf. So this is a reed mace and not a bulrush. So we need to stop referring it in that incorrect way. But the reed mace, it's a very typical pond plant to have, and these lovely sort of cigar-shaped flower heads are a classic pond-side plant, but it can be a bit of a thug. There's sort of four main varieties that you're going to encounter in ponds. This is the Typha latifolia, which is the native reed mace. It can get very large, up to 2 meters in height. It has a very, very invasive, creeping sort of rhizome root structure that will take over most ponds. It can grow in quite deep water, 2 feet or even more. Dave, my cameraman today, has helped me previously clear out a large lake where we were wading in sort of 4.5 feet of water, and the reed mace had established itself and was growing through that depth of water, which is quite unusual. So it can really take over, if left unchecked, most ponds. A slightly smaller variety of the reed mace is Typha angustifolia. Very similar, again, quite large cigar-shaped flower heads and thick sort of waxy green leaves. Not quite as tall, about 1.5 meters in height, but still pretty big and too big for most domestic ponds. And then from there we move down to some slightly nicer, more ornamental reed maces. And we've got Typha laxmanii, or slender reed mace, which is a very thin leaf, and that one grows to about 4 feet in height, 1.2 meters. Much smaller, thinner, cigar-shaped flower heads, a lot more attractive, and that's a nice plant to have in a pond. And then even smaller still, you've got the dwarf reed mace, or the pygmy reed mace, which is Typha minima, and that grows to about 0.5 meter in height. Almost sort of a grass-like, slightly glaucous-y, bluey-green foliage with very, very small flower heads. So that's a lovely, lovely plant to have in a pond. But really, the larger varieties like this, too invasive for anything but a very large pond, and really out of scale for most ponds. This is a big pond, and this is fine. I think this isn't out of scale for something in this sort of size. But over the years, it's really spread and grown, and it needs to be kept in check. And so today's job is to go around and manually start pulling out a lot of this root stock and getting rid of it. Now, you've got to be careful with growing reed mace in a pond. It has a reputation as being a variety of plant that can actually pierce and damage pond liners. And the growing tip on the root structure here has got a very, very sharp point on the new growth. And that has been known, and I have witnessed this, it has been known to actually penetrate and pierce through pond liners, particularly if you've got thinner sort of PVC liner or a not a particularly good grade rubber liner. So it's always best kept contained, or if you're growing it in a pond uncontained in a basket, make sure that you're using a good quality, thick, heavy pond liner. Winter care, as with most marginal plants in the pond, will be to cut all of this emerging foliage back to perhaps 6 inches or so above the water surface. But you could leave a few of these interesting burrs and stems in the pond for a bit of winter interest. These can look quite nice if you've got a very cold morning and a nice thick hoar frost. They can look quite attractive covered in frost, so you might want to leave a few of these emerging just for a bit of winter interest. Right, we've got a lot of clearance to do. I'm going to crack on and start to pull out a lot of this. The water's getting a bit chilly, and we've got a lot to remove. How's it coming out, Dave? Not too bad. A bit smelly in there, isn't it? Now this is the sort of kind of subterranean creeping root that you get from the type of the reed mace. But this is already quite well established. But it's this section here, which is the new growing tip, which can be very sharp as it starts to grow from the edge of the plant. This is actually edible. This is a a starchy food, apparently. I've never tried it and I don't think I want to, but apparently edible. Should have come prepared with a face mask today. This is a mucky job. If you've ever worked in a clay pond before, you'll be familiar with this very pungent, metallic-y kind of smell you get from the clay. It gets in your clothes, and it gets in your nose, and it's not very nice. Dave's just gone in. Can you reenact that, please? The camera wasn't on. What about down the waders?
I can down the waders as well.
How much?
All of it.
It might end up like a wetsuit and you might end up quite warm in there.
Yeah, it is a wetsuit.
And that's a good time to stop for lunch now. I can't believe we missed that off camera. And it had to be you, did it?
It certainly did.
Do they feel heavy? Nice. It's not too bad.
Just down through here.
Is it? Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh dear. Have you got some spare clothes?
Yeah.
Dave comes prepared because it's not the first time he's fallen in. So one of the main identifying characteristics of the reed mace, the Typha, are these lovely cigar-shaped flower heads. Very soft, and this is where all the seeds are held. There's other uses for this. Obviously I mentioned that the root and part of the new shoots is edible. This flower head has also got a use in that it can be used for fire lighting. It's a very, very sort of fluffy, downy seed, and this dried out makes fantastic tinder. But it can also be used as a form of sort of natural insulation to stuff pillowcases, although you'd need an awful lot of this to do so. But yeah, lovely things, and these can be dried out and make quite nice features in the home. Right, well, we've got still a little bit of clearance to do on this. All of this lot's going to get cut back now so that next season the new growth isn't being hindered by any of this sort of dead thatch. I'm Ed from Crystal Clear Aquatics. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next pond.